Appreciate you streaming in with us here on Birds 365. You got McMullen and McDonald, and we are joined by Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com. I think you logged in early enough to hear the end of the Mac predictions for Birds 365. I got the Eagles 13-4. Johnny's got them 12-5. A lot of the games are the same. We disagree on a couple, but not many. How good a season are the Birds going to have on paper, which we know that's all that it is, Andrew. And then we may or may not need to throw the paper out at some point. What's your paper say on the Birds' upcoming season?
Well, I have them at 12-5, Jody. And the reason being is I think that stretch after the bye week, that 5-game stretch, is a little bit tougher than, on paper, it's a little bit tougher than I'm sure than the Eagles are used to, at least last year. So I think that could be a proving grounds as to what this team is made of. Obviously, health is going to be paramount here, but I think that they'll be able to close out the season strong in the final 2 weeks. But that those 5 weeks there are going to be really telling.
You know what I like about the schedule, though, Andrew, is the front part for this reason. I think the Eagles are going to have some hiccups, have some struggles in the changes from Shane Steichen to Brian Johnson, JG to Sean Desai. There's just a natural sort of growing period. They got to intermix a bunch of new starters on defense, especially the back end. But they're playing a bunch of bad teams. So I think they can, gain some confidence early in the season. And then, as you mentioned, that 5-game stretch, I agree with you. I got to win in 2 games, but I think if you win 2 of 5, you're fine.
Yeah.
So I like the way the schedule laid out for the Eagles, and that's the bigger part. The wins and losses are silly, I admit, at this point, but I always look for the themes. And boy, they got a chance. I had to fight to find a loss at the beginning of the season. I ended up with the Jets, who've never beaten the Eagles in the regular season. Jody ended up with the Dolphins on October 22nd. I could see him beating both of those teams and keeping it going and really arriving at the bye undefeated, even with some hiccups, because that's the easy part of the schedule. And I think you gain confidence the more you win.
Yeah, I actually lean towards what Jody was saying, losing to the Dolphins, going down there to Hard Rock. They have something of a track team down there. And that just seems like a game where I think they could drop going into the bye. But that's probably the only game I foresee them going, foresee them losing.
Well, that game's here. That's if it were in Miami, I would entertain it a little bit more. But they're at the Rams, at the Jets, and then they come back home. So that game's at Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah. Okay. Well, even still, I would say just because of the weapons that they have there.
Yeah, I expect Tyreek Hill to beat them.
They can get out to an early lead, and then it's tough.
Yeah, I definitely expect. I saw joint practices. I saw Tyreek run by the Eagles so much. I'm sure he's going to get them beat deep. But I'm not sold on that Dolphins team yet. I think it's Bills, Jets, and you can argue both of those teams to win the AFC East. Then the Dolphins are a clear third. New England bringing up the rear. That's my opinion.
So you are sold on the Jets.
Jets are going to be a good team. Question is how good. They're going to be a good team, and I think they have 6 standalone games. The NFL seems to know it too. They're going to be good.
There we go. We'll find out about the Jets head coach. You said earlier you don't necessarily like the Dolphins head coach. I think both of those coaches still have something.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't love Robert Saleh either. I sure don't love Nathaniel Hackett.
No.
But I think the real offensive coordinator that got Nathaniel Hackett the job is now back with Nathaniel Hackett
as the quarterback of the New York Jets. All right, Andrew, yesterday was a first meet and greet with the 2 new coordinators here in town, one of which was elevated to the position, the other of which was brought in from outside. And he seemed pretty happy about it. The new defensive coordinator was more all smiles than the offensive coordinator. And man, did he check off all the boxes of what you want to say to the Philadelphia fan base when you get here in town. He played up very well to the fan base. Were you impressed with Sean Desai yesterday?
I was going to say, first off, we'll see how long that lasts because the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia, outside of Jim Johnson, is usually public enemy number one here. But I think that he said all the right things, Jody, and really seems to embody, at least in his opening presser, what Philadelphia expects from their defense: fast, flowing, physical, grind it out, blitzing, blitzing, all that stuff.
By the way, Andrew, have you ever heard a defensive coordinator say, "We want to play slow"? We don't want to hit hard. I love it though. Sean Desai, here's the thing. He coached at Temple with Al Golden back in the day. That's where he started his coaching career. And even though it's Temple and they're never on the front page, to say the least, I think he got a feel for this town. So I think he played the game great. He just, as Jody said, he's gonna throw out all the buzzwords and people are gonna eat it up. I think he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I thought he aced that opening presser, and like you said, he said all the right words, and now it's taking those words and translating it onto the field.
Because that's not going to happen. He's going to play the same defense. That's what's so funny about this.
Right.
But he knows how to play the game better than JG. He's going to say aggressive. He's going to say adjustment. He's going to say, these 4 or 5 core words, and he gets it. And as silly as it sounds, that's going to make things easier for him.
Yeah, I'll be interested to gauge the temperature of the fan base there when you see those first 5 games or so. They're going to tell you that he's great. You know what I mean? They're going to, because he has the mindset of what everyone is looking for and what everybody feels as though the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia should be and should encompass.
Represent our city, impose our will.
Yes.
Well, these are the phrases that the Philadelphia Eagle fan base just absolutely loves. But I did give him credit for this. He avoided using the word blitz.
Because he's not blitzing. He's not dumb.
He's not going to.
Yeah, he didn't say that. That was the one key word that Philadelphia fans wanted to hear. And he was wise enough not to go there, because if he doesn't blitz, then they go, what the hell happened? You said blitz. How do you not blitz? So even in the touching all the right bases, he did do justice to what the defense is probably going to be. Or will he? Will we see a change? This is not Jonathan Gannon. We believe it's going to be similar. There's going to be a lot of things that are copied right out of Gannon's playbook. And Nick Sirianni is on record as saying, I've got my core philosophies, and I want to see that to our defense coordinator. Is there wiggle room in there for Sean Desai to be more, I'll use the word aggressive. I won't even tie it to blitz. But will this defense be more aggressive than last year's defense?
I think slightly, Jody. I mean, look, Nick Sirianni laid out the blueprint. That what Jonathan Gannon ran last year. That's what he wants. That's what the organization wants. But I also think that you give your coordinator a little bit of flexibility in how he's able to shape his defense. And I think you are going to see a little bit more of an aggressive-minded defense. Look what Sean Desai did in Chicago a couple of years ago. And I thought that sort of is going to embody what you may see here in Philadelphia. I thought that was much more of an attack style defense. Now, I don't know that's going to be, he's not just going to, all of a sudden, they're not going to throw their philosophy in the garbage here. And, but I think that he will have a little bit of say in which he's able to execute his scheme.
Yeah. I asked Sean about, he brought up Vic Fangio on his own. So I followed up on Vic, and, it was interesting, his answer. He said everybody's got to add their own identity to that defense and apply it. And the reality is there's only been a couple people that have really spent time with him and worked under him, saying himself, he's pointing the finger at himself, and really learned under him and the other people they've learned under through different channels. It's like a game of telephone. How many times if we go down the line, what's the communication when you get to the end? In other words, he's saying, I worked under Vic. I learned under Vic. I was his, mentee. I know what this defense is about. I'm just warning people. He's playing that defense. That's his defense, and he's a part of it. Now, in situations, that becomes a feel. So if it's 3rd and 13, maybe he uses the overload blitz a little bit more. Maybe he doesn't play invert cover 2. Maybe he get off the field. Maybe he does a better job. But the philosophy, I'm warning people, it's not changing.
Exactly. I think situationally, as you alluded to, John, you're going to see a little bit more aggressiveness, which is really what Jonathan Gannon drew the ire of the fan base, being more passive in certain situations. So I think that Sean Desai, when presented with the opportunity, like you said, a 3rd and 13, you might see a little bit more aggressiveness on his end.
You used the word field, Johnny Mac, for the defense coordinator. Well, the offensive coordinator went there too. Brian Johnson, when asked about comping to Shane Steichen and giving credit to Steichen for what he did as the play caller here, said he thought Shane Steichen had a great feel for calling plays. And I like the phrase that he used. It's part art, part science. That some of it is analytics and you do the number crunch and you come up with a play. And sometimes you got to feel the situation. You got to feel the moment. Although he wasn't near as excitable as Sean Desai, did you like what the new Eagles offensive coordinator had to say yesterday?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Brian Johnson. I'm really excited to see what he's able to do with the offensive weapons that he has at his disposal. Obviously, this is someone that has a long-standing history with the quarterback, so you're going to see him accentuate what he does really well, and I think even take it to another level. I think that you're going to see the passing game expand even more here, and Jalen Hurts have more liberties in what he's able to do at the helm.
Yeah, I think Brian's got it a little bit easier for a couple reasons. One, he's been here, and he called the transition seamless. I don't expect it to be seamless because Jody knows I have a ton of respect for Shane as a play caller. Sounds like Brian does as well, by the way. So I don't think it's going to be seamless, but the Eagles are so good on offense. I mean, so good. The quarterback is an MVP candidate. The offensive line, even with some uncertainty at right guard, is going to be top 5 at worst. The receivers, as long as AJ and Devontae stay healthy, that's top tier. Dallas Goedert, they're so talented, and they have enough at running back.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who is going to be the lead back, but somebody's going to be just fine. They have so much talent on offense. I think it's going to work itself out. The defense, there's so much more uncertainty, especially in the back 7. I think they'll be fine up front, but the back 7, I got a lot of questions about. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, I think Sean Desai certainly has his hands full, trying to integrate all these different pieces and have them come together as a cohesiveness on that back end. Even at linebacker, right now they really can't line up at linebacker, John. I don't know. He's going to have to.
Well, they can. It wouldn't be good though.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to get creative in how he deploys his personnel there. But you're right. I think Brian Johnson.
You bring that up, Andrew. I got to throw that. I forget who, Jody, if you remember, because this scared the hell out of me, and I don't think it's going to happen. But somebody brought up playing Nolan Smith at all-ball linebacker. Oh. One of our guests, and I didn't even think about that because I don't want to think about that. That would screw him up to no end. And then I had a fan bring it up as well. And I'm starting to get antsy. So many people are bringing this up. And I'm like, the Eagles won't go that. They won't be dumb enough to go down that route, will they?
I mean, you hope not, especially not for a rookie. I think that would be malpractice to throw him in a position where he's not going to be set up to ideally be successful. That's not how I view him. And that's not how many view him long term.
I don't think it's how anybody views him. Yeah.
Again,
I only bring that up.
We can get into the debate of how you describe a player as a positional spot that he's playing. It all matters how you use him on the field, what his responsibilities are on that given play. I could see him as a quote unquote off-ball linebacker if they have only 4 other linemen on the field. If you got a 5-man line and he's one of your linebackers, now you got an issue. Now you got a problem because he's not. But they played a lot of 5-man line last year, which quote unquote, depending on how you describe it, could have made Hassan Reddick and off-ball linebackers because they only got
No,
one other linebacker on the field and five
No.
guys on the defensive line. Well, is it mandatory you have two linebackers on every play? Because it used to be you needed three linebackers. Now we're down to like one. Is it mandatory to say there's got to be a minimum of two linebackers on every play?
Well, off-ball linebackers' description of what they're playing off the ball. They're playing, N'Kobe Dean. They're playing Kaiser White. That's, last year, TJ Edwards. Those are off-ball linebackers. And this is why it drives me crazy. And Jody, it drives me crazy when people call Hassan Reddick a linebacker. I don't know.
Then let me ask both you guys. What is an off-ball linebacker? And, oh, by the way, is there any such thing as on-ball linebacker anymore in the National Football League?
There's edge players. There's edge players. Hassan Reddick's an edge player. Nolan Smith is an edge player.
Give me the breakdown between an edge player and an off-ball linebacker.
I just told you. Off-ball linebackers play off the ball. They're not on the line of scrimmage.
Right.
They're Mike linebackers. They're Will linebackers. They're off the ball. That's why they're called
off-ball hand in the dirt. You got to have your hand in the dirt to be a.
No, you don't have to have your hand in the dirt. Most edge rushers stand up and they're coming at you.
Yeah,
and they're on the line of scrimmage.
Okay,
they are
so
on the line of scrimmage. It's all depicted
by how many yards behind the line of scrimmage you start to play.
Well, you also have different responsibilities. The responsibility of an edge rusher is to go get the quarterback, is to rush the quarterback. The responsibility of an off-ball linebacker is to blow to the football. Running backs, maybe you're in coverage if it's a passing play. Maybe you're checking a running back coverage. They have different responsibilities. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Read your keys. As Andrew says, they're completely different positions. And this is one of my pet peeves with the NFL, because there's a lot of fans who see that term linebacker, like they say, because a lot of people describe Nolan Smith as a linebacker because he's an edge rusher. He's an old school 3-4 linebacker is what he is.
Yeah.
He's an edge rusher. And by the way, that drives me crazy because nobody plays 3-4. Nobody plays 4-3. No. And people still use that terminology, and it drives me insane. Andrew, does it drive you as insane as it drives me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All the different terminology and everything like that. It's it's mind blowing how far it's come, but it's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, keys. You said it. Off-ball linebackers are playing. They're the guys who are defending the running plays. They're the guys that Jordan Davis is trying to keep the blockers off of. Mm-hmm. They're the guys who are trying to cover the tight ends, the backs. Now, every once in a while, you got to throw a curveball. We mentioned ESP used to criticize Gannon for putting Hassan Reddick in coverage. Well, a pitcher doesn't throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball every pitch. Occasionally, you got to throw a curveball.
Yeah, you got to shake it up. Yeah,
you drop them into coverage to fool the quarterback, but not consistently. And that's kind of my point. Anyway, sorry, Andy.
But and then I got bad news for you, John. I think that is going to be part of Nolan Smith. And again, it all comes down to percentages. Do I think he's going to be dropping in coverage 60% of the time? No, of course not. No. But it's going to be more than once every 25 plays. I think they will use him as a quasi-edge, quasi-linebacker type player. I think that can happen. And again, you tell me, how often would that be acceptable to John McMullen if you're going to drop him in coverage?
Same amount as Hassan Reddick. Basically, not much. Not much is acceptable.
I think the next couple of months are going to be really telling based on what the Eagles do at linebacker. They'll tell you how they're going to use Nolan. If maybe they're looking to deploy Nolan Smith in the way that Jody's alluding to.
And by the way, to the Eagles' credit, I maybe three of the scouts, they evaluated Nolan Smith as an edge rusher. So from the personnel department, they brought in an edge rusher. Now they can't control what the coaches do. That's up to the coaches.
Right.
But they evaluated him as an edge rusher. So there was no Micah Parsons. Oh, we're going to play him at off-ball linebacker. They evaluated him as an edge rusher. So that's a good sign.
But that scouting department you're talking about has left the coaching staff with the 4 linebackers they have as of right now. So if you don't give them enough bullets in a position that they need to fire a gun every once in a while, what are you going to do?
What scares
you got to make something up. And that means, maybe we should play Smith the linebacker.
But here, and I'm going to say something that is going to upset people, but Nicholas Morrow at weak side linebacker is better than Nolan Smith at weak side linebacker.
Well, you're right. That's true.
Yeah. So that's the problem. Never played it before. Why would you, just because he's an athlete, just throw him into the deep end of the pool? And by the way, I don't think the Eagles are going to do that. I've just heard a number of people mention it as a potential because there's an obvious need, and he's not going to get a lot of playing time at edge rusher. He's going to be the 4th edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it from that standpoint, but I think the Eagles are smart enough to avoid it. But I went into a wormhole. I apologize for that, Andrew.
All good.
We'll get back to the schedule. Now, one of the things I find funny, and I sent Jody a text, I always look out for the first disrespectful tweet about the schedule. The NFL is so disrespectful for the Eagles every year. Did you get a disrespectful vibe any points of the schedule?
Not really. No, I mean, the schedule is the schedule. I thought that having a week 10 bye is actually a pretty good spot, getting ready for the stretch run.
I love that spot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that quick turnaround, you're getting it out of the way early. That Thursday night, that second week in Minnesota against Minnesota, I didn't get any. I mean, or are they alluding to the Tom Brady commemoration?
Well, the first tweet we did get was the Tom Brady, New England. First of all, I said it's a bad team, but I think I actually talked. It was Elliot, I can say, because Elliot's my friend. But yeah, I did talk to him at the Nova, and I was kind of chuckling about it. And he said it was more to do with the NFC champion should open at home, so he felt that was the disrespectful part of it. I don't know. Is that disrespectful that the NFC champions don't have to open at home?
I mean, I guess depending on how you look at it, but I'm not one that plays into the NFL schedule makers or against the Eagles or anything like that. I just think that's just the way it shook out.
Now, the Eagles will begin the season on the road for a 4th consecutive year, which is the team's longest streak since the
80s, right?
6 consecutive, 83 to 88. So they have been on the road to open up quite a bit recently. Just throwing it out there.
The reason why I'm saying it's not disrespectful, Tom Brady honorarium aside, this is a year where they have more road games than home games. Every other year, you're going to have one extra game. One year, it's going to be a home game. One year, it's going to be a road game. And this year, it's a road game. So you got 9 road games. If the Eagles had gotten a home game, someone would have said it's disrespectful for the Eagles to have to play 9 of their last 16 games on the road.
Exactly.
That's the schedule. You got to be able to get all the games in. And if you're trying to keep it balanced in a year where you have an extra road game, I would start with a road game.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to please everybody.
No, you're not. All right, let's end it here. At Andrew DiCecco. Make sure you follow Andrew on Twitter, Inside the Birds, InsideTheBirds.com. Michael Clay talked kind of, he's playing the lounge while Sean Desai and Brian Johnson are playing the big room. But, the punting situation is interesting for a couple reasons. One, the Eagles actually brought in competition.
Mm-hmm.
That tells me a lot. They also changed Aaron Cepas's number from 8. They gave
10.
that back to Marcus Mariota to 10. But here's the problem. They not only changed his number, that part's not that big of a deal to me, Andrew. They made him share the number. That's not good for a veteran. Am I reading too much into that? Yeah, but now they also gave Ty Zettner, who's the new punter, 49. So it's not like they're saying, hey, Ty, you're going to be our punter. Matt Ariza is out, and everybody's excited about Matt Ariza. Not everybody, because, there's still some issues there. Are the Eagles going to have a new punter?
I think that sharing a number, and sometimes I do read into that, John. I think right now that's sort of indicating this is a legitimate competition. A lot of times you see teams bring in camp bodies just to share snaps. But I think in this situation, Ty Zettner will have a legitimate opportunity here to unseat Aaron Siposs as the Eagles punter. And I think that's sort of a big indication in that direction.
All right, I'm going to use a card playing analogy for my final question for you, Andrew. Are you a card player?
Yeah, a little bit. I dabble.
Okay. That's what we like to hear. Howie Roseman's had a hell of a game. This offseason, he's raked in a lot of pots. He's had a lot of winning hands come his way. And he's got more chips at the table than almost anybody else he's playing against. Should he use that chip stack that he's built up with the roster that he's put together and has the Eagles where they're at right now to maybe try and make one more big play? I've been singing the praises of Patrick Queen here for about 3 weeks after the Ravens decided not to pick up his option on his 5th year. Doesn't mean they have to trade him. Doesn't mean they will trade him. Just means I think they're open to trading him. And oh, by the way, when their general manager last week said, we think of him as a Pro Bowl level player. Yeah, and you didn't pick up his 5th year option. Come on. Do you really think that weak effort is going to fly? I think that was him trying to build up Patrick Queen's value, which tells me he's available. That's the one position where, in my mind, there's no question the Philadelphia Eagles are weaker going into the season than they were last year. Every other position you can make the argument it is as good, if not better. Will Howie Roseman pay the price of a day 2 pick to go out and get a player like Patrick Queen, even if he's just a rental for 1 year?
I think, Jody, because of the circumstances this year, and you look at what the Eagles did in retaining someone like a Bradbury and restructuring Slay and doing all these things, I think he's very well aware that the window is open to pounce on a Super Bowl run here and take advantage of it. So in that case, I say yes. Under ordinary circumstances, I wouldn't see him parting with anything of substance to get a linebacker. It's not a position that the organization values. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Queen would be a tremendous tremendous addition to pair opposite Nakobe Dean. They're putting a lot on the shoulders of Nakobe Dean right now, who I do think is poised for a breakout. But I mean, he has 34 career snaps. I think they need to pair him opposite a veteran that can play at a high level. I think Nicholas Moore would be a nice third option. But I think, yes, they should do that. And it's not something that I would take lightly from Howie. I think you have to take advantage of it while the opportunity is there.
Strike while the iron is hot. You and I are in agreement. Andrew, great stuff. Appreciate it much. You hopping on. You got plenty to write about over the next week with the coordinators and the schedule. And then we're all going to have to take a deep breath before camp starts because there's not going to be a whole hell of a lot going on. We'll be reading your stuff in the upcoming week. Thanks for jumping in with us today.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Andrew.
DiCecco from Inside the Bird.
Still got OTAs, Jody. OTAs are going to be exciting. May 30th.
Are we sure the Eagles are having OTAs? Because they seem to believe less is more.
They are having less OTAs than most teams, but they are having OTAs. Yes.
Okay. It's when you actually tell me you got to leave the show early because you have to go over there because the Eagles are actually
May 30th, baby. May 30th.
Okay. Well, we got a couple of weeks to go before May 30th. We'll see if that actually arrives. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. Chris Franklin's going to join us coming up about a half an hour from now. Stay with us here on Birds 365.